Welcome to Charts Today. My name is David Linton, and today's edition for Thursday, the 2nd of March, comes to you from London. And we start, as always, by looking at currencies, new records in stock markets last night, and we look at Asia, commodities, and then last of all some tech stocks which are still powering ahead. So the real story is that the dollar moved on this Trump speech to Congress, and if we look at the dollar index, this is the short-term chart, this is the 60-minute chart. We see here we've got new upside targets, 103.84, 104.16. If we make it to those targets, we make new highs on the dollar, and of course from technical perspective, new highs are good. So that is just consistent with the dollar powering ahead. So at the moment, dollar strength is back, and that means euro weakness is also back. And if we look at the euro, we see we've got a whole new set of downside targets. The thing to watch for here is these targets here. If we take out this low, these targets will progressively come off the chart. We've got new multiple downside targets. And so again, this 101.12, which was given back in November, is and still 4% below where we are, is now clustering with this new recent target, and that is suggesting that we are going to near parity on the euros. So looking pretty bad, and of course these targets here kicking in. There will be a new target on this chart here, and we can just see there we're going to have a new downside target once that's activated. And if we take a look at that chart, we're seeing targets quite scarily into the 80s, then 75, then 60. So the euro really looking pretty scary, and so below the cloud on all three time frames, bearish. The yen, see the dollar yen rate rising as well, so the dollar is rising against the yen. Yen is falling. So at the moment, that dollar strength hasn't quite kicked in here yet, but when we move above this 118 level, we are going to activate a very big upside target in the yen as well. So it's all about dollar strength. And pound is weaker again. We talked about the pound teetering along this 124 level. If we look at this 60-minute chart, we just fell completely out of the range here. So we're making new lows. And if we look at the daily chart, the medium term, we see on that chart how we're now coming back to test these January levels. So new 4 or 5 week lows there in sterling, and we just didn't make it above the cloud there. And we've got these downside targets 117.70 and 121.16. So we are seeing downside moves in sterling. So expect sterling to go lower. There's no big surprise here. In January we went to early February we made a new high, but we struggled to get higher than the December high. This low is lower than that low. In the Dow theory terms, expect this 120 to break. If we look at sterling against the euro, we see that falling away as well. We're down to 116.50 at the moment, so we're pulling back here too. So sterling is definitely the weaker currency right now. And if we look at sterling against the Swiss franc, 124.07, that's falling away as well. Sterling against the Australian dollar, we went to 160. We just have recovered a little bit, so about a cent there. So Australian dollar is just falling against sterling here, but we are seeing that coming under pressure too. Taking a look at the S&P 500 index, new highs again last night, a big bounce up. Really now starting to test this 2400 level soon. We've got upside targets of 8 and 13% and 16%. The US market is rocketing. When we look at the Nasdaq, that's going up as well. We're seeing strong growth there. And the Dow Jones now smashed through the 2100 level, making new all-time highs as well. And we look at the Russell 2000, again, same thing here, we're making new highs. So all looking pretty good. The futures this morning in London, we're just seeing here that the future is just pulling back a little bit, but nothing major to worry about. The FTSE 100 is just very slightly down, but it did make a new all-time high yesterday, new record all-time high. And remember, new highs are good. As a technical analyst, we like that, and just breaking that January level. So the FTSE is really starting to power ahead now. We've got targets of 23% on this long-term chart, on the 1%, 23%, 11% is the next stop. And this 7520 target was given in 2011. We're nearly getting there now. So we are convincingly just breaking higher on the FTSE. This is looking right back to 2000. It's only now really that we're breaking 15 years of flat market. So the market could really, really run for a long period now. We could be back into a cycle like we saw in the 90s for stocks. And if we look at the FTSE 250, that's also been making new highs last night. So that's also really good. DAX is bullish above the cloud on all three time frames. The Nikkei is up with the yen falling. That's good for the Nikkei. Just breaking out of this range, making a new high there as well. So we're seeing the Nikkei moving higher. Hang Seng was down just very slightly, but no great shakes there. And the Shanghai Composite is just holding its bullishness, but testing the cloud on the short term. Sensex is bullish above all three time frames. The Indian market looking very good. And if we look at the Australian market, we see here that we are again up 1.2%. So we're seeing quite a strong move there too. Brent crude just struggling to break out of that level at the moment, so we are on the sideways market there, and we're just in that range, struggling to break higher. And if we look at WTI, we see here we've just fallen below again, so crude is just really struggling at the moment. Nat gas is above the cloud in the short term, but the downside is still looking pretty worrying on the medium and long term charts. Taking a look at copper. Copper's bullish above the cloud. That's pretty good. Heating oil is just bearish below the cloud. Just running through these really quickly. Coffee below the cloud is bearish and on the medium term as well. Here we see cocoa is also bearish. Cotton is just bullish in the short term. Not a lot of liquidity there, but bullish above the cloud on all three. Sugar we're seeing here again, and wheat. Wheat just breaking above on the 60-minute chart, so we're just starting to see that, but the long-term downtrend is still in place. Soybeans, we're seeing here bullish on all three time frames, so that's one of the better looking softs. Corn is also just looking quite good on the short and medium term, but not quite on the long term. Takes us to gold. Gold pulling back with that strong dollar, so we have got a bit of a pullback going on here, but we are above the cloud. So this does look temporary, and we've got this 1287 target to play for. Silver bullish above all three time frames, so silver is holding on to its bullishness. This is the Bund, it's the German bond, just falling back. So we're seeing the Bund falling back, meaning German bond yields just improving a little bit after their recent all-time lows, and we're seeing here that the US 10-year Treasury bonds are now strengthened back into those high 240s. So we're back to the levels that we saw in January, December time. So just around that 250 level on the yield on the 10-year Treasury. Apple continues to power ahead. Google is above the cloud on all three time frames. Amazon is as well. Facebook making new highs last night. Lots of multiple targets. I hold Facebook shares. Lots of multiple targets there. Microsoft had a good night also, rose above the cloud, and we're bullish on all three time frames. And Nvidia, the stock that did best for me over the last year, I finally liquidated the holding of Nvidia earlier this week, so I'm not a holder anymore, but be interesting to see any recovery there. There are new downside targets, so that's a little bit worrying. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.